Mushroom Speedway time. Coming out of Molten. Hold up right. You're gonna pivot. Just jump, follow this line. Watch out for Hunter. He has the world's worst hitbox, as is Spyro tradition. I kind of like to jump. You can also just take it wide. Jumping lets me kind of get into the water early to get these 2 gems. They're a little bit obnoxious to get because of how, well, this back one is. Far back that one is. And then sometimes this one can be an issue if you got Spyro's head stuck in the ground. Do something like this. Careful, like I said, sometimes you need to let go of charge. Make sure you get that gem. For this next little section, there are a few different ways you can handle it. A more beginner-friendly way is to come out and get this 5 gem. If you're really uncomfortable, you can get this 1 gem as well. You don't necessarily need to. I'll demonstrate without it. Basically, you take a better bend through that. Hold right, hold left, excuse me. And then you kind of need to hold left to pick up that 1 gem, and then go back right as you're kind of going through those bottles to get that. That's all going to be the same. Here's an example of why I don't just run off. You end up very far forward. You can still sometimes get this green. And I will say when you do dive in, you typically want to be more forward up here. You don't necessarily be too far back. You kind of do want to push Sparks to his limits there while you get that back green gem. A more advanced strat, which is kind of annoying. Get that red gem. We're going to hold like so. You can also Spyro paddle, dragon paddle. Essentially ease your way around before going like so. And then this last section is done the same. Careful not to be too far in the wall anywhere. Pop on out. If you're very far back, you can glide there. Push Sparks a little bit. And then for this last little section, it can get a little bit tricky. You do need to not go too fast to make sure you get all the gems here. So you can do something like that, where you kind of flame as you land into a flame charge. You can pick it up like that. You can just do that as well. So, Speedway basics. I'm gonna just rattle off a bunch of different stuff. Basics and tips. So in general, the lower you fly, the faster you're actually gonna fly. This is, a staple in Spyro. Fly up very high, you're slow. Another thing in this game is subsequent speedways have faster and faster flight speeds. So Mushroom is the slowest flying speed, whereas Harbor is very close to, or right around, depending on how high you are, of course, because it's still proportional. Very close to your supercharged speed. With wanting to be low, don't take too harsh of angles to maximize that. You typically want to ease yourself down there pretty well. If you are transitioning from a glide into a supercharge, try not to be up. You'll sometimes get a little bit of a stall there. Sometimes you'll even get a pop up. Kind of like a super fly jump. But if you're angled downwards, you'll get a direct, connection to the ground. You can also transition that into a pogo, like so, by immediately pressing X again. You can be a little bit too low and you might run into some issues. So it's kind of just like a snap, not necessarily a full-on like that, because sometimes you'll get a stutter. A big thing can be turning earlier than you technically need to, or kind of going wide and turning wide. Instead of hitting what you need to and then starting your turn. So that comes up here in Harbor as well as in Honey. Those are the main 2 places. So for instance, if I just take a direct line, come up, I miss him. However, if I go wide and start my turn early, I'm basically turning into this arch and can get him early, as opposed to that. Power-ups. Red, you get a rocket. Generally, best thing to do is shoot it at the first place leader if you're struggling to beat them. That'll slow them down. You're going to be fine beating everybody else. For blue stars, you need to be gliding to get the boost. Oftentimes we do a very late transition from a charge into a glide, and if you aren't gliding into it, you'll just eat the power up, and it's not the end of the world usually, but it's just helpful to know. And then another thing is with pogos, it can be helpful to be a little bit more up to get more momentum shooting yourself forward. For ring hitboxes, in races, they're generous. You see, I didn't touch it at all, and I still got it. And there is a limit to it, of course. So you're going to want to take advantage of that. For normal, non-races, these are not as generous. You do really need to get Spyro kind of through. So there's one. Kind of at least like touch like half of the ring there. Keep in mind as well for races, if you completely miss a ring, it is a complete failure. You have to start over from the beginning, so be careful with that. So another thing is on entry, you talk to Sparks every single time to select your challenge. This is different than Spyro 1 and Spyro 2. As a result, our time attacks all start from the exact same spot. So if you're familiar with it all with Spyro 1 and 2, there's a difference between the fly-in when you initially enter the level and when you reset it, and that can sometimes cause your strats to be different. In this game, we're lucky, there's one starting spot only. That's all you have to worry about. There are 3 eggs in here. We've got the time attack, we've got the race, and then there is a hunter challenge. You can do those in any order. If you're on 1.0, you're going to want to do the hunter challenge last. Hunter's always hidden about. Because what'll happen is you'll be able to actually pause before talking to Sparks after you get the hunter egg and leave the level early. If you're on 1.1, you'd have to go down to hit exit level through the menu. Of note, if you're on 1.0, your exit will look like this. See how I paused before talking to Sparks? Now do be careful if you are on 1.0. If you complete a time trial or a race and pause like this and exit before talking to Sparks to get the egg for that challenge, you will mark the egg as having been gotten, and you will be unable to get that egg ever. It's actually just like kind of a thing that people ran into as kids. So just make sure when you finish one of the 2 normal challenges, you always get the egg. Don't pause and exit. Make sure you're conscious of this. Coming into speedways and starting them, I like to do the race first. Just because menuing can be a little bit awkward. I'll show you kind of what I mean. If I'm mashing X, I can just quickly throw in a down input mixed in there and hope that I get pushed down, as opposed to, mashing like normal, doing the time attack first, and then having to like conservatively kind of click through and get down. It's not always going to work. Sometimes I'll still just end up doing the time attack first, but for me it's worth a shot. Just throw in. The idea being I can still go pretty fast with my mashing of X only, plus that little down input, and then go all out for just the time attack, as opposed to, the awkward menuing. Then here's an example of my mashing into selecting the race first. I just want to kind of give you an idea of the timing that I do. It's a little bit of a YOLO. I only hit down once so that I don't accidentally exit level. In real time it looks like this. So basically maybe like right when the text completely shows up is maybe when I throw it. Just like so. Yep, just about there. Now, make sure at the end of each time trial you pause and give up after you've collected the final gem, and make sure you get the final gem. You can actually pause and give up too early. So right when I saw the little numbers pop out, the gem enters Spyro, I pause and I give up. Otherwise you wait a couple seconds before it manually boots you to this screen. Flapping up, another thing I should probably have brought up. Hitting X will raise you up. This I find to be a lot more consistent than Spyro 2's flaps, if you're at all familiar. This is a very good way to just kind of adjust yourself up very quickly. Other than just aiming yourself up. Another thing is to keep in mind that Spyro's flames stay in front of him as you're going about. So be careful just to not turn too early. So starting off, like I said, we're going to start with the race. Keep in mind for the race, you can glide the entire time and try to hit all of the stars. Never transition into a supercharge and you can beat this race. This is very, very comfortably easy to do, like so. And then you can kind of gradually add in more gliding to supercharge transitions, just based on your comfort. I'm going to go through a first pass and I'm going to talk about kind of options for you. And then what I'll probably do is I'll give you an amateur, not super difficult, like single lap. And then I'll do like kind of an all out, like this is what I would do in a run strat, single lap. So to start with, you can just come down here and do something like that. Yeah, I kind of showed that off. You alternatively can do this. Keep in mind, as you saw there, it was a perfect demonstration, that when you land on this, you almost kind of want to play it safe and get a good amount of runoff there. That'll help, you know, as opposed to just a quick little peck like that. That's a little bit more quicker, and you would maybe do that in an IL setting, but not necessarily a run. So getting a little bit more of a run, going left more, helps a good bit. And then you alternatively don't even need to do that start. You can just go around here. And you can combine any of those any which way. Following this, we've got obviously the first power-up sort of thing. Just go through the blue star and you'll shoot on away. You can transition here, like so. Get a pogo going. Or you can alternatively just keep it going. With that second star, I find it a lot easier. I'm going to do this. Find it a lot easier to properly hit this if I kind of wait a little bit right after getting the star before I start my turn. And that sets me up very nicely for that ring. You know, play to your comfort. You can get pretty greedy, but if you want, you can just play pretty wide right there. You'll get more comfortable the more you do this. And you can do that right here and play that. You can do another pogo right there, another pogo right here. I like to come more right for this little landing here and transition into a straight supercharge. I used to like landing more here, but I think getting the supercharge gets you a little bit more time, sacrificing, you know, that rightward movement. And then you can also play this pretty aggressively. Obviously, I'm trying to show the absolutes, but if you jump like that, a bad save state. But you can get through. If you're not comfortable, jump early. Come on up. This section, go through. You can transition down, just like so. You can not do a transition. You can just go straight through. That one doesn't make too much of a difference. And then alternatively, you know. Nah, you should always go through this. I lied. For this last little section, this one I find to be slightly tricky. It's a little bit risky because it's just very easy to cut early and screw up your hitting the ring here. I like to try to play a little bit higher and then up left to really conservatively land on that little section. And let me just show. You've got a decent amount of leeway here as far as like what you can stand on. You can't stand up here. I think you can stand up all the way over here. Yeah. So there's a lot of room to make this little pogo work. And you can land right here and continue on if you're comfortable with that. Otherwise, just turn and go. So a beginner-friendly look will look something like this. I accidentally saved over my save state. So let's fix that. I could have probably pogoed there. I don't necessarily recommend that pogo. I don't necessarily recommend that pogo. Again, jump early if you're not comfortable with it. And of note, I'm probably taking these a little bit tighter than even a beginner would, so keep that in mind. And then like so. So here is an advanced run through of a lap. I am trying to be fast, but I'm also trying to be safe, because this is the middle of a run. Still go for some good stuff. Contrast this with an IL, where I'm trying to just go balls to the wall, hit every little thing possible. And I don't care if I fail, because I can just reset, and I lose, like, what, 30 seconds, a minute? Just like so. So that was even a little bit more conservative. So after you do that, you will mash through and collect the egg from Sparks. I should also mention I will link I'll link some examples of a full route. I don't want to show it because the 3 laps are all the same, right? Alright, so here's a clean take in a run of the Mushroom Speedway time trial. Note how low I'm going. I'm trying to really just take tight lines on these. I will show off some alternate strats here for ILing as well. So for this can be a little bit of a tricky point here. This jump right here. I usually like to use this little dash as kind of a point to line up for, and then I will jump out. So sometimes you can bonk on this. I think you might even be able to bonk on the this afterwards if you come too short. But obviously you want to jump through him. If you're not comfortable with that, you can jump early and flame him. Glide into a flame, of course. But note how far out I go out. You can even run on this. It's a little bit riskier. Again, you run the risk of bonking into it. But don't be afraid to go pretty wide. Initially play with this, see how generous it actually is. If you can't, this is probably the route you should want to do, even if you're a beginner, I would say. The alternative would be to do like rings, dandelions, spiders, and then butterflies. But this is like no different and slightly better. So coming up here, after this, there's an optional strat again. You can see I go for this. If you don't want to do this little ramp, just glide and flame the guy. It's not going to make too much of a difference. If you do want to give this a shot, one thing I can say about how I find success, because it's very easy to overshoot this guy and then also undershoot him. Notice how deep I kind of go on the ramp. It's not just like a kiss the ramp type deal, and it's not just like a sharp up and over. Like, I'm kind of like running alongside of it for a little bit. Not a ton. You get a nice medium amount of height. Again, you don't want to just touch it and jump off. You'll get too little height, and you don't want to just ramp straight up off of it. You'll get too much. Be mindful of how that guy's swinging. Make sure you go to where he is swinging. It's kind of easy to miss him. Like, not crazy easy, don't get me wrong, but it happens, I guess, maybe every now and then, especially if you're newer. Now, here is a tough part. Butterflies. It's a very weird motion, so my biggest recommendation here is to take it wide. You'll see I'll take these actually pretty tight. Pretty inside, obviously, to save as much time as I can. But take it wide, and try to flame earlier than you might expect. If you're not comfortable with that type of movement, it's probably about 6 seconds slower to go the direction they're going. So we went clockwise there. If you go counterclockwise and chase them, it's about 6 seconds. If you miss like an early one, as you're going up and down, like, you know, maybe the first one or the second one, and here maybe you don't go up far enough. It's only a couple seconds gone. If you miss like a later one, it's also about 5 to 6 seconds gone. So going around twice with like this harder method is about on par for going around the quote unquote easier method, which is the counterclockwise method. So it might be a little bit better for you to stick with this, but you know, find your comfort. It's another thing. You kind of almost want to go too far out and then drag back in with the butterflies. Think about my previous tip where I said sometimes you want to turn before you technically even have to, which kind of helps give you a little bit more leeway. So notice, that I am kind of left of center with some of these flames. Not necessarily the ending ones. It will get a little bit easier as you go on through the circle. But look, I'm going to the left of this butterfly. To make sure I get it wide enough here. Here, it was pretty dead on. About when I flame. But again, if there's one I miss, it's the second one. So, yeah. There you go. I'm going to quickly talk about a couple IL strats. Just to put them in there. We don't typically do them RTA because they're kind of dumb. There are a few different variations. I'm sure the task has even more. I'm not going to show well, you'll see. I'm not going to show a full IL. But I will link the leaderboard just for your reference. So this one, Nitroff's going to land. There's a polygon here. Notice how up he goes in the rings. He's going to do a little bit of a ramp off right there. And what I've typically found is this is about even with what I prefer to do. And you might even be able to combine these two strats. So I favor the usual low. And then right here, I don't glide. I connect with the supercharge. I find this a little bit better. It's not free by any mean. It's actually a little bit challenging. It's very easy to just run off this edge right here and go into glide. Or fall short, of course. So you can see I get pretty deep before I hit X, right at the corner. And again, I find these to be about similar. I think when we hit this guy, it's like I'm like a frame faster. That might not mean a whole lot. This is all pretty similar until right here. So this can be a tricky thing. So typically leave it for ILs. We're going to not glide here. You'll see like so. So there is that little bit of a ridge. Let's go back further. Right here. I kind of like to come at it, not quite parallel with it, but obviously not perpendicular. And I've done a full jump to this point, I should say. Maybe take this back a little bit. And you obviously want to kind of turn into it. So it's all, you can almost think of it like a wall glide, where you kind of turn at the end, except it's with a supercharge, and it doesn't work all the time. So again, it's more of an IL thing. Or maybe this is in the future, and we go for all the IL stuff. I don't know. Tunnel's pretty much the same. And the last thing I want to note is the butterflies. When you're ILing, you'll actually get a butterfly early. You'll go up. Just like so. Again, I'm not going to harp too much on this, but I will link ILs down below. And then, just for full clear sake, here is the entire Mushroom Speedway time trial. Again, staying low, trying to take advantage of the little bit of extra speed there. Cutting the corner there, looping around safely. Going kind of along with it to get that medium height. I do a flame there to get that dandelion slightly earlier. you know, it's going to save you just ever so slightly a bit of time. Remember with this, Spyro's flame stays right in front of his face, so be careful as you're dragging. You'll get the egg from Sparks here. Mash through to get to the Hunter challenge. We're going to go through the time attack, so just completely mash through. Hold up right, come down. Hunter's just right over here. 826, 833 are good numbers to get. For the Hunter challenge, here are your controls that you're going to be working with here. Here, and here, and here. So this is a beginner route. This is posted by Ash, supported by Spud, and from what I can remember, Mikey. So we're going to follow this guy. You got a decent amount of time to get him. I'm just going to let this play through and kind of talk after. You're going to raise up your level a little bit. You'll have plenty of time to get that guy there. These two you can get much later, and then you can also circle around the mushroom there. Whatever you're following here, which is at least this one guy, make sure you don't get hit. Just juke yourself out of the way. So this one has... this one's a little bit slower and intentionally misses something to just show the backup. So, you know, note the plane that he's on, I'm going to raise myself up to early, while also kind of trying to cut him off, just like so. And note that I do slow down here. I take my hand off of, my finger off of X there. Same thing with this next guy. You can slow down to really get him. Again, it's off. And depending on how fast you take that, if you take it very fast, you have a high chance of getting this third guy as he comes through. If not, this third guy can be backed up. He'll actually come out to the tunnel later, and we'll get, so I'm going to intentionally miss him here. And then, you know, as you saw me get these guys earlier, you can get them, I like this guy first, and then this guy, but you kind of have your options. You can also get them later, and around here, make sure not to get blasted. This mushroom, you can go around to the right side of it, and you'll end up just kind of chasing this guy right down here. If you're really fast, kind of like I was in that first take, you can stop out, you know, further back here and shoot him before he comes around and then turn around. Watch out. You can tell when they're going to fire at you. So here is kind of before, kind of nothing. And then you see like the projectile starts to kind of grow. And so you can see it very right there. You can go over it, you can go to the side of it. Just make sure you don't get blasted. It's that thing right there. And then you can come up and get this guy right there. Like so. So this was the third guy, the one coming right at you. Let me back this up a little bit more. So this guy, and he's going to kind of snake around, so you do want to kind of veer more right if you need to back him up. And this is the same guy you normally end on anyways. You can cut across to him. If you need to see that again, you know, take it from the beginning. A more advanced route, kind of what more the standard top level stuff, look like this. So right off the bat, you know, same thing with the first route, holding X and circle. Now I'm going to slowly frame advance this, I hope. Let's take it in slow-mo, how about that? Notice I just go straight right. So I usually hold circle and X, and then once I get a little bit of right movement, I basically want to aim for this little, I don't know, mossy spot. I like to get just a slight nudge over to the right and an ever so slightly small nudge up, which is going to be me pressing the down button here. So you'll see. See, there's my down. Just like 4 frames or something like that. Just enough. And you'll notice that I see just a couple of these fire on the correct plane. So this guy is going to intersect with these. And so I get like 2, 3 good shots on the correct plane. maybe a fourth one right here. And I immediately need to turn up here. So you can see me turn up left. You don't need to fire a whole volley. You just want a few shots that for sure get there. So it's important to pay attention to your firing. And then as soon as I know I'm going to hit him, I'm going to be already making my way down. So this guy, note where I cut, because this is actually kind of important. As I cut, I'll cut X, my speed. So this guy will line up right here. And you can get him early, like I am. You can also get him a little bit later. I think I have a demo of like a backup if you need to get him deeper into the cave. And then notice, as I enter the cave, I've cut my speed, because I don't need to go too deep to get this guy. So I want to get this guy. I just want to line up, shoot at him. He's going to run into my bullets. My bullets are going to run into him. Potato, tomato. Just like so, line up, adjusting up as I need. I might have done that entering more so. And, you know, keeping in mind that as I'm turning, the wing shot from the top will, you know, be on a different plane than the one from the bottom, of course. And notice I cut again as I turn. So enter, cut. There I adjusted up. And I've already cut because I'm trying to make sure I get him. And I can stay on this same plane and kind of use this to almost boost the wall to boost me up a little bit. So you'll see I don't even adjust. Okay, I adjust slightly there. It's not always necessary. And it's going to kind of depend on when you cut your speed. So note, I cut pretty far back. The further back you are, the more time you have to kind of line up. Whereas if you shoot out further, you're going to be closer to this guy. This is the fifth guy. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult to aim at him. So note, like I said, cut pretty far back, and I'm just shooting a bunch here. I can kind of take my time with this. If you're really trying to push this, you can shoot a few and then cut left. You don't necessarily need to. And if you're starting out, you maybe want to try get the feel for shooting this guy. Just like so. You can kind of also sometimes wiggle to kind of get a varied amount of bullets on different planes here, different like kind of Y coordinates, to account for any variation in like if you're a little bit too low or a little bit too high. You know, you're also coming from that turn, so your wings are kind of starting to come in more level. I get just enough to get him. And you can see, actually it looks like that one is going to get him. We're going to come back here. And then I'm going to turn my attention here. It's pretty important to not crash into this guy, which I don't really use speed up to this point. Nope. Not until I'm sure I'm going to hit him. And you can even take this a little bit slower. You don't need to speed up into it. And just shoot him like so. Now this guy, depending on how fast you took everything, you can get him far left of this mushroom, or you can get him to the right. Worst case scenario, you follow him all the way over yonder. To that far right mushroom. Just like so. So all together, oops, it's the wrong way. Let's go back here. Get this right here. Clean take. Very exaggerated to get that second guy. Just like so. Now backups, I think I just show two here. So say you miss this first or second guy, or even this third guy. So you can get him kind of like this. I rushed in a little bit more. You can still cut early and shoot from afar and trust that it'll get him. And then obviously switch up to him. Aiming here. Getting this guy. And then if you miss this guy, he's going to go around here. And then if you miss that third guy, he's going to come out here. These first two guys, one, you can react to kind of which way they come from. If it's this guy coming this way, you want to go to the right. If this guy is going to the left, you go to the left. In this case, I had to go for both. Something like that. After the hunter challenge is done, If you want to point out, you can pause like this right before Sparks talks to you. Go to exit level. Otherwise, just menu on through. And exit.